Morning, Matt. You all right?
Yeah, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Okay, well, it's been another good weekend for you. Lots of chat. I'm sure you've read all the stuff from James Willoughby in today's Racing Post saying that you were spot on about what you said at Masterminded. For those who didn't hear, basically, with the benefit of hindsight, it seemed that you slightly regretted kicking on at a certain time in the race. Now you've had a bit of more time to digest and probably watch the race again. What do you make of it all?
It actually didn't look as bad as it didn't look as bad watching it back as it did feel when I was riding him. You know, it felt when I was riding him that I'd actually sent him to the front, or sent him sort of too early, really. And but as I said, it didn't look as bad watching as what it felt. And you know, I look back at now, he beat probably a very good horse. You know, I mean, it's all that ifs, isn't it? But if Somersley hadn't been in the race, he'd have won 20 lengths, you know. So I think I'd probably give Somersley a little bit more credit than what people are giving him, you know.
I mean, you pulled Mars clear of a decent horse in the old Max back in third, and of course there are other decent performers behind these two. The other thing is, I mean, with Masterminded, I mean, even though he's had the breathing operation, historically we know he's probably not a horse that finds masses amount off the bridle. Is that fair?
Look, I don't know. As I said, there's you can make lots of cases and lots of points, and you know, I just think that, you know, I just think that Paul Nichols is such a good trainer because he knows where, you know, where the horses are, you know, where they're meant to be, and how many times in the season you can have them, you know, A1, you know, and you know, I think probably, you know, I don't think for 1 minute that the likes of, you know, I've heard rumours that his horse might run on one or whatever. I think it's a point in case that his horses are probably not as good at this time of the year because you can't have horses peaking all the time through the season. You know, I think that, you know, that at some point you have to ease off them a little bit, you know.
When you were looking behind you, 2 out to the final fence, were those looks of desperation, of just checkings to see whether you were going to have to give him a hard race? What were they looks of?
Look, a little bit. I thought down along the bottom, just as we jumped the 4 fences down along the bottom, I thought when I did go on Mastermind and send him to the front, I actually thought when I jumped the last down the back to come around the bend of the straight that everything would have been dead. You know, I thought that sort of, you know, those sort of the distance between those 3 or 4 fences, I thought that I would have, you know, when I did kick them on, I did think that I'd have everything else killed off by then. I was a little bit surprised to see that Somersley was still there, you know. So, but as I said, like, you know, it was still you know, it was a good performance. It probably wasn't his best performance by any means, but it's a good performance to beat Somersley. And as I said, he's probably a better horse, you know, the beginning of the season, and probably a better horse sort of later on. You know, as I said, I think, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if he's in a better horse, you know, come Cheltenham, you know. But that's not to say that Somersby won't improve as well.
I was chatting to Robert Bellamy yesterday, and obviously, you know, from his history, you wouldn't ask Robert anything about to do with race riding or anything like that from his days as a jockey. But when it comes to turf, he's quite an expert. And he was just saying ground at this time of year, wherever it is, whatever racetrack, it's not nice for horses like Masterminded. Do you think that could have been a factor? Just although it wasn't bottomless or anything like that, it's just nasty winter ground at the moment.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's, you know, it's not wet or loose, and it's certainly not good. So it is probably the worst kind of ground for horses, in that it's probably at its most testing, really. So you know, so it's definitely not nice for any horse, but they've all got to go on it, you know.
Is he, I mean, still for you the one they've got to beat in the Champion Chase? I mean, the other thing is to remember, of course, it is a furlong shorter at Cheltenham. Some people might argue that Cheltenham's a more testing track, but it's, you know, it was 17 furlongs rather than 16 yesterday, and at 16 he'd have hacked up. Yeah,
he's definitely still the one to beat.
Right.
Still the one to beat. I mean, obviously Big Zeb won it last year. He's a very good horse, you know, and obviously horses like Somersby, if they run. You know, he's definitely the one to beat, as I said, because, you know, I have no doubt that he'd probably be a better horse. You know, he'd probably be a better horse come Cheltenham, you know. just for no other reason than that he's, that, as I said, I would think that just at the time of the year would probably suit him better.
Okay, well, we look forward to him again. Let's have a chat about Binocular. I've got to hold my hands up here. When I saw you chasing Overturn in that Christmas hurdle, I thought, oh, he's having a blowout today. He's not really up for it today. He's having a blowout, because I've never expected Binocular to be so close to the pace. As it happens, of course, he went and hacked up, and it was a sort of a different angle to the Binocular that I sort of have come to get to know. You must have been thrilled with that win in the circumstances of that race.
Yeah, I was thrilled. It was a long ways off, his champion hurdle form, but it was a progression from what he achieved at Newbury. When I rode him at Newbury, obviously he was very fresh. I rode him obviously a lot more restrained for that Newbury, but as I said, I did that because it was his first run and he was keen and he was going to be fresh. And I wanted to do the right thing at the horse, whereas at Kempton. Just as we spoke, I mean, it was the kind of ground that I'm sure not a lot of horses like. So I was just thought that it was the best thing to do for the horse. That if I rode him handier, that it would be, that he could have an easier race and that he probably wouldn't have to make up the ground on that ground. I knew that Overturn was a pretty good marker, pretty good yardstick. So I wasn't having any. I didn't see any reason why I should leave him off, really. But good horses, Matt, are pretty easy to ride. Good horses are easy to ride, no matter who rides them. They're a lot easier to ride than the ones that are not so good. And, he's obviously a good horse and won a champion hurdle. And as I said, it was a progression from Newbury. So I was pretty pleased with it. It's still, it's still not, as I said, by any means champion hurdle form, but it was definitely better than it was at Newbury.
And he does seem to be a horse who really will peak come Cheltenham time. What did you make of Hurricane Fly yesterday? I mean, it's still, even on the Sunday forum yesterday, people were saying, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but yeah. I don't know a 6-time Grade 1 winner that's useless.
Well, I wouldn't mind having Solid.
No.
I wouldn't mind having. Definitely, he's a very, as you said, Matt, he's a very good horse. Anyone that can get a horse to win 6 Grade 1, it's very lucky to have a horse like that. He's a very good horse, and it just proves to you how good Hurricane Fly probably is. He is an exceptionally good horse that everyone at Cheltenham is going to have to worry about.
Hey, Champ, you'll scrutinise Hurricane. Is there anything about him that you will look at and think maybe we can, that's a flaw in him? I mean, for me, he just jumps brilliantly. He clearly stays up to 2.5. He's got a turn of foot. He seems to have everything, but what do you think?
If you owned them, you'd be struggling to pick any holes in him. He's as you say, he's 1 over 2.5 miles. He's got pace. He probably goes in any ground, but he does go in any ground because he won at punches at the ground. So he's got the lot. They're all, the questions that asked is that he hasn't been to Cheltenham or whatever. Yeah, sure he hasn't, but I don't think it makes that much of a difference. He's done it around lots of different tracks, so.
Champ, how many horses have you ridden who just won't act at Cheltenham? I mean, what the big argument against Hurricane Fly seems to be, will he go up and down hills? Presumably he trains up and down a hill somewhere. How many horses, statistic-wise, presumably it's a minute percentage that just won't act at Cheltenham?
Yeah, I agree with you. Obviously, some horses can be better going right-handed than left, but he's won both ways, obviously. So that isn't a problem. So sometimes that could be more of an issue to them. But as I said, if they're that good, they can normally win anywhere. So look, it's very hard to pick holes in. There's obviously Peddler's Cross and Menora, and it's going to be an exciting champion hurdle if they all get there. But Hurricane Fly is the one that everyone's got to worry about.
Could be one of the best champion hurdles in recent memory, I think, with all these, if they all get there, they're there at the moment. We could have a real race on our hands. Must just quickly ask you about Corto Star. Again, you've had time to digest all the, in some quarters, ridiculous comments made about Corto Star. just going back now with the benefit of hindsight, how far out did you know things weren't going quite as you'd imagined, i.e. you weren't cruising round?
Pretty much after they'd done a circuit, I was kind of hoping that he'd have, that I'd have been getting a better feel off him, and pretty much definitely when we turned to go down the back the last time, I was kind of worried, and just pure sort of class that kept him there in the position that it did. But I certainly wouldn't write him off. He didn't have he didn't run that badly. He certainly didn't run up to anywhere near his best. It probably wasn't a million miles off his running down Royal, actually, the way he ran. But that's not to say that he won't come back and run very well in the Gold Cup again. Possible that he will,
Yeah. So you wouldn't give up on him at all, and obviously
too good a horse to give up on,
Yeah. Well, there's no. I was again speaking to Jeremy Naylor, and he said there are very few tests on when horses deteriorate, but the tests that have been done say that physically, no racehorse should get worse until the age of 15. That is the age when things start deteriorating physically. There are other reasons why horses deteriorate speed-wise less than 15, i.e., they gather problems and all that kind of thing. But actually, and this is veterinary fact, that no horse physically should get slower until the age of 15. How about that?
Yeah, well, he's not an old horse by any means. So I wouldn't. He just didn't run up to his best, and but I'm sure that, as I said, Paul Nicholls will get him back to the Gold Cup and flying form, and I'm sure he'll run very well.
Do you know what you'd ride in the Gold Cup at the moment?
Hopefully something.
Well, obviously.
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. JP is a couple of, obviously if it was very heavy ground, which it obviously won't be, I might have thought of running something synchronised or maybe Kempes might be in it as well. But I don't know whether JP's going to be in the Gold Cup or not yet.
Yeah. Synchronised, of course. Welsh National winner. I mean, that was just a staying performance. You were a bit iffy after the Welsh National about, whether he'd jump round Aintree or not. But I don't know whether you can predict that kind of thing, can you? Because some horses who you don't think will jump round suddenly take to it and actually jump Aintree better than normal fences. It's hard to say, isn't it, really?
Yeah, you can't say until they have a go, Matt. I've ridden plenty of horses that I thought would be very good that weren't, and vice versa. You get hounds that you think won't be very nice, and they tend to jump very well. So I mean, for instance, the perfect example. I know he's a different type of horse, but synchronised, but Clan Royal was the only place he was. It was the only place he was anyway. Nice to ride was on the entry today,
It's not an exact science. I mean, he is clearly a Durst there. There isn't really a race long enough for him. You don't really have to answer this because I know you're going to say, well, the weights aren't out yet, so we'll wait till the weights. But it would be a hard choice if Synchronised and Don't Push It are both in there. I mean, obviously, it would be really hard to get off Don't Push It. But then if Synchronised had a nice weight, it would be tough, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. I mean, realistically, obviously Don't Push It's going to get handicapped on his form of last year, which is going to make it tough for him because, Red Rum was the last horse to win back-to-back Grand Nationals. I've watched horses in recent years that I thought were very capable of winning back-to-back Grand Nationals. I think Hedge Hunter was one of them. I thought he was a very good Grand National winner when he won that. He could definitely win another National, and I think he was second behind number 6 Valverde next time. Even Comply or Die was a very good Grand National winner. And he couldn't win again. Even Mon was a very good Grand National winner and, struggled last year. So it's getting to near on impossible for horses to win back-to-back Grand Nationals. So, but at the same time, it's going to be very hard not to ride Don't Push It. As I said, he gave me the best my race in life, if you like. So it wouldn't be very nice to be deserting him for any horse.
Yeah, no, definitely. AP, you've won every national that's worth winning. You've won the Gold Cup. You gave possibly the best ride of all time in a Champion Chase on Edredon Bleu. You are the winning most jumps jockey of all time. You are champion jockey every single season. You are the BBC Sports Personality of the Year. And yet some owners have said, you know, Ruby Walsh is better. We get emails in on a daily basis saying AP can't ride in chases. He's no good over fences. When you obviously know these things are said and are out there, what do you make of people who say, you know, AP can't ride over fences? Do you just ignore it? Is it just absolute ridiculous stuff?
It's like everything, Matt. It's all a game of opinions, and you just sort of whatever people want to think, they want to think. You know, I mean, it's like anything. It doesn't affect my attitude or my way of riding. You know, I do it. I do what suits me, and unfortunately, it's not always the right thing. But I do what makes me happy, and I do what I think is right. And what anyone else thinks, Matt, is really irrelevant, to be honest. You know, there's a lot of people's opinions I respect. Obviously, some more than others, and some that I would, you know, that I would listen to and take advice from. But people like that, you know. I mean, statistics are something that I sort of kind of live by, and how can, you know, I did hear someone mention about whether, you know, I mean, how can anyone really watch the best jockey I've ever seen, like, so, you know, how can, you know, people can't sort of crab at someone like him, you know. Yeah. But everyone's going to have a different opinion, and they will, you know, if you ask 1,000 people to pick the best 3 footballers there's been in the Premier League, you'd get, you know, you wouldn't get 3 the same answers any time, you know.
Yeah, no, well, that's fair enough. Do you have a preference? If tomorrow the BHA announce, and hell, Racing for Change could announce anything. If the BHA announced that chasing was going to finish and we were just going to have hurdle racing, or alternatively we were just going to have chasing and hurdle race, would you have a preference? Is there one you prefer riding in over the other?
Not really, no.
No,
they're not really. You know, I don't think there's anything really different about it, to be honest. You probably get a worse fall over hurdles, but again, you know, as I said, if you get to ride a horse like Binocular, then you know that's really good at what he does, or you know, that's what it's all about. Whatever, if you get like those really good horses that are good at their job, then it doesn't matter what they're racing over, you know.
And the season as a whole, I mean, obviously, you know, barring the problems that any jockey can face, another championship in the bag?
It's a bit off, but hopefully, you know. You know, gotta keep riding the winners. It's going all right. Obviously, I'd like to ride 200 winners if I can, and at the moment, I've got a good chance, hopefully.